this first track is from a movie that I wrote the soundtrack for called Santa Sangre. Has anyone here seen Santa Sangre?
Yeah.
So there'll be some visuals that come up. With most of the music has visuals to keep you distracted instead of having to stare at me, because it's really boring. Okay, so this is the kind of main theme from Santa Sangre, which plays at the end of the movie.
I think you're right. Yeah.
It's called Alma.
We probably should do that too, right? Move back. Oh, it's not bad. For students, a little bit about overarching themes of scoring cinema.
Okay, well, you know, I've been a film composer for nearly 30 years now, which is something that even surprises me, because I never intended to be a film composer. It's always a very delicate matter. I'm very aware that the point at which I get asked to score a movie is the point of maximum paranoia in the whole process, because, you know, the director has been standing in the rain or sweating in the sun for weeks or months, and then been in an editing suite, you know, trying to make this thing work. And nobody at this point knows if their movie is any good. That's my impression when I come on board. So I'm very aware of the kind of delicate situation of that somebody who's worked so hard on this project to get it financed and then made is effectively handing over their baby to this idiot, me, to completely change. Because of course, you know, what music does is it provides a kind of emotional subtext to a movie. You know, it can do many things. It can exaggerate themes which we already know. Like, you know, if there are lovers, you know, it can be a love theme. My personal feeling about that is I don't like to be told the same information twice. You know, I don't see why music has to, you know, heavily underline what we already know and are hearing from the actors or see from the camera. So I like the idea of doing music which makes you drawn into the film and kind of think more about what you're watching, which means it could be contrary to what you're seeing. So, I mean, you know, I've had a lot of experience with different kinds of genres of movies. And, you know, I think the one thing that you need from a director is you want decisions. We talked about this, Lloyd, before. The worst kind of directors that I've worked with are directors who are indecisive, you know, and I think a director, and this is speaking as somebody who's working for them, it's a collaboration. What you want from them is just a clear idea of what the music does for any particular scene. And if he can explain to me, you know, sensibly what he wants the music to do, then I'll do it. But generally, if he can't put it into words what music is going to add to it, don't put music there. I've seen directors, you know, being bombarded with 1,000 questions a day, you know, because people want an answer. And I think a director has to give a decision, whether it's right or wrong.
What do you think is the biggest mistake that the people who score films make?
Well, I think the biggest mistake is to kind of take the audience for fools in a way, you know, and be too leading with the music, you know, like I hinted before, you know, as if there's a car chase, you know, we have to have car chasey kind of music. It's sort of treating the audience as if they're stupid, and of course there is some kind of what I would call a popcorn duty to exaggerate and make magnificent, you know, what you're watching, and you know, and that's something that composers have to do. But you know, I like to try and make people think a little bit about what they're watching and perhaps question it, and I think it makes a richer experience for the audience.
Maybe talk a bit about the. It seems in so many movies where the spooky music starts first and
well, you know, I've done a lot of horror films, so I think, you know, music has a great ability to be able to lead people, to make them scared. But the most effective use of music is silence itself, because I think if you're listening to music in a very scary scene, you kind of get used to hearing it, And if you then take it away, you kind of leave people hanging adrift, really, without the rhythm or the tune that they're used to hearing. So I think, it's almost like taking the drugs away from an addict. They're left, with their naked selves in the room with the camera. And that's what I think is most effective with horror music. You can up the ante, but then take it away.
When you did Jodorowsky's music, can you talk a bit about it? It seemed a little counterintuitive.
Yeah, well, I learned a lot from Jodorowsky very early on in my career. When I was doing the movie Santa Sangre, there is a scene in the movie, without spoiling it for everyone, where one of the main characters, a woman, has her arms cut off by her husband, who's the knife thrower in the circus where they both live. And it's a really pretty nasty, bloody scene. He cuts her arms off. And me, in my kind of naivety at that point, I said to Alejandro, so you want me to write some really nasty music here? And he went, no. This is a moment of religious ecstasy for this woman. She's in heaven now. This is a wonderful experience. So do something uplifting. And I said, oh, okay, right. And I did. And of course, it makes the whole scene far more powerful. Far more powerful. We can see the blood spurting out of her, where her arms used to be. You don't need me to tell you that. I can tell you something else about what she's thinking.
How would a young person break in today to horror music?
I think a young person today, starting off, should really, you need to get some experience simply of putting music to images. Find friends of yours who are making shorts, experiment in that kind of way. The technology is there now to effectively make your own orchestral stuff, out of a box, which we all do. Sadly, actually, I have to say, the days of big orchestral budgets are gone. But, it's not the end of the world. We all have to make do with it. But I think for young people to get into it, just, get some experience of how you can change. Take a scene, even a scene from a famous movie, and rescore it in different ways. One of the projects I have done, actually, which is more of an art project, is I took the speeches of politicians and scored them as if they were fiction, which they may well be, but in different ways. So I took one speech by Tony Blair, where he was talking about the death of Princess Diana, and I scored it as like a sort of tragedy, which is what it sounded like, the words. I scored it as a comedy, like the Pink Panther, and I scored it as like a sort of a thriller, as if there was some sort of sinister secret about her death. And it was just death. It was really interesting, and I think I would advise other people, take a famous scene, do it your way.
I have an exercise in directing where I had the actors read the scene the exact same way, and one is very romantic,
right.
And the other one, the woman cuts the guy's fingers off. Same dialogue.
There you go.
They have a fight.
Yeah.
One final question, maybe talk a bit. Do you think that people overwrite for the movies? Do you think there's too much music in too many movies?
Well, I think in terms of amount of music in a film, it varies, and it varies, depending on the genre and the kind of film that you're writing music for. The simple fact is, I think in Hollywood movies there tends to be an overuse of music. It's almost there's like a universal paranoia amongst studio executives that left alone in the room in their own heads, the audience will walk out. So I think there is too much music, and it's seen to be a way to make people feel more comfortable, or indeed to lead them and really explain the story to them and treat them like idiots. So I personally like movies where there isn't much music, and I'm always trying to encourage directors to have the courage of their convictions with the actors. Let the actors do it. You've hired them. You don't need me to hold their hand.
Dali na vreme život by se nabrzáptuje. Poješ se stáváme, ja som miloký málo. Žere ruku od stejkaj sa nabíjí, ja sa len komenem.